Today I want to talk about spiritual hierarchy. What I mean by that is this belief, thought about self and others that places either self or other at a position above or better than, or having more power or possessing more knowledge than another. Now, I'm not talking about people that have gifts, talents, skills, and have moved through a path in their life where they have come to a point where they are a teacher, a master, a leader, a guide, and they're acting in integrity and they are holding that position from that place. I'm more or less talking about that hierarchy position where, let's just say you are the student and you're placing a teacher way high up on a pedestal. The teacher may or may not have asked to be placed on that pedestal. Either way, you're placing them on a pedestal. At some point, they are going to possibly do something and then they will no longer be on that pedestal. So that's one component of it. The other is self or other. This could be you as a student, or it could actually be the teacher as well, who places themselves on a pedestal, who sees themselves as possessing some kind of knowledge or power or gift that is different than what other people possess. Now, there's nothing wrong with that because we all do possess gifts that are unique to us, that are gifts that we are called and asked to express and share in the world. There is a subtle differentiation here, though, between someone who possesses these gifts and uses them as a way to hold power over other people versus someone who uses these gifts to help empower other people. See the difference? One places the person in a place of hierarchy. It's generally coming from a deep insecurity, a core wound that is not being addressed by that person. Again, this can be the teacher or the student. And I'm just going to simplify the talk by using teacher and student as the two titles here to reference. However, you can fit whatever title you want into any one of those, and this analogy will still work. Why is this a problem? Well, it can create a lot of problems for the student if they are giving all of their power away to a teacher who is either willing to accept the power or willing to ignore the fact that somebody is giving them power. So that can create a lot of problems when the student gives the power away. One, as a student, you're not learning. And if the purpose to connect with a said teacher is to learn something, then you're not learning if you just gave all of your power away to that teacher as being the one who possesses. It takes a person out of themselves where they're not present enough to be asking questions that would help their learning and growth. Instead, they're just deferring everything over to this teacher or person, and there's really no actual learning or growth going on. There's just a dependency being created upon this particular teacher. If it is the other way around, if it is the teacher who is the person who is in the position of hierarchy, it's also dangerous because one tends to attract the other, where a teacher who is willing or unwilling to accept power or accept themselves being placed on a pedestal, it starts to boost up the ego. They start to feel really good about themselves. They start to feel like they are the one who possesses some certain knowledge, and they start to create separation between them and the people who are seeking them out to learn, to grow, to heal from. And that separation can be really toxic and dangerous for a teacher to fall into that particular role. One, they're disconnecting from the people that are showing up to learn from them. In that separation, it creates like what might be referred to as something like an echo chamber, because they're weeding out anybody who doesn't fit a certain image that they're holding for what they're looking for, and anyone else who might actually be wanting to learn and grow or in a certain way is not going to show up, because there has been this energetic block placed within the container where the person whose ego is getting inflated, if because the insecurity and the deep wound hasn't been addressed, if there's a student who happens to challenge that in some way or trigger that in some way, that student gets rejected and maybe even told that there's something wrong with them or that they're not this or not that. And the teacher maintains and kind of climbs a little higher up on their pedestal as they feel like they have effectively done something to, create a certain type of a space. So it's important whether you are the teacher or the student, and we're many times in both roles. We're a teacher, we're sometimes a student, we're sometimes a teacher. The roles are interchangeable. But it is good to check in and, ask the self, am I creating an echo chamber as a leader or a guide or as a teacher? Am I creating a space where I'm only allowing in representations of what fit the ideal that I'm holding outside of myself, yet is the one that is in direct opposition and rejection to the one that is being internally ignored? Just to clarify on that, because that was a lot. There is an ideal that is being put out. So anybody, any person, place, or thing, situation needs to fit a certain ideal, an image. That image that everyone or everything else is being accepted to fit is in direct opposition to what is being rejected within the self. So there's something that someone doesn't like about themselves. There's a core wound, there's a message, they're in denial, they're in avoidance, they're in resistance, unwilling to look at it and willing to do the work. There's something they don't like about themselves, whether they're conscious of it or not. There's something they really like and idealize, whether that could be an aspect of themselves or something outside of themselves that they're really striving to be, because it looks like it's the answer or the antidote to what they don't like within themselves. So they create, we'll just call it a world around them, of everyone, people, place, things that have to fit that mold. And anything that doesn't becomes and feels like an attack on that person, because it is challenging that bubble that they've built outside of themselves. And for a teacher, a guide, a leader, it's kind of a dangerous place to be in, because there are people who may be attracted to them to learn what they authentically are teaching. Yet if that person doesn't fit the mold, doesn't fit into what vision has been created, then they're getting pushed off or treated like there's something wrong with them or told things about themselves. But it's important as a teacher and a guide to always be in a state of learning, to always be open to feedback and to be open to grow. A teacher has to be continually learning and growing. And some of those messages come from the outside world. If our learning is only contained within us, there is a slight chance that we are blocking off components that don't fit. We're avoiding to go deep into an actual growth process, but we're just feeding the ego more and more. So as a teacher, it's really important to have other people that are teachers and guides that we're connecting with, that we allow ourselves to learn from our students just as much as we learn from ourselves, our mentors, and our teachers. And to be on a path of continually doing that deep introspective work of looking at what are our own internal blocks, what are we ignoring, what do we not like about ourselves, what are we telling ourselves? Because all of that, as for a teacher, is a learning opportunity. And there has to be that point where this gets looked at and the question is asked, am I acting from a place of hierarchy? Am I protecting a wounded place within myself? And Or am I giving my power away to someone who is willing to take it, consciously or unconsciously, because I don't think I'm worthy, good enough, or capable? You can see how these two attract each other. The teacher who is willing to take the power to boost up an insecure place within self partners up very well with the student who believes they're unworthy, doesn't see that they're capable, has doubts about the self, and looks up to the person with that knowledge. It is a toxic cycle. It's one to be aware of. And if you find yourself in either one of these roles, it's not about judgment. It's just about acceptance and recognizing, aha, now I see it, now I understand. And then it is about, after being in acceptance, coming into forgiveness and love and making some corrections. It's that simple. But the first step is always to be open to learn, to be willing to see and notice and observe what is going on. What is the experience? And then from there, anything is possible with the growth, with the learning, with the connection, and with making corrections within that path. Here is my last bit of information or words that I want to share here with you. If you find yourself being in either one of those roles, it's important to communicate it. It's not just enough to make the corrections internally and forgive self or forgive other. That is one part of it. However, the next part of it, which is sometimes the more challenging part of it, is to communicate it. It's to get clear on how you're feeling, what your words are, what boundaries need to be set, and it is to communicate it. There is no possibility for actual true learning unless there is a conversation about what has happened, what one has experienced. And it is totally possible that depending on the person whom you're communicating with, they may or may not be open to the conversation. They might defend themselves. They might project and gaslight and get all manners of toxic rather than listening and being willing to take it in. But there is an important part of the communication, whether it be to the person directly or to a trusted person or guide, or in some way that energy has to be processed through here. Otherwise, there's the knowing and the connection in the mind of what happened. There's the feelings in the heart. And if it is not processed through here, there is no completion, there is no release, there is no healing. There are many ways that it can be processed through here, through conversation with the person or another, through song, through making a video, there just has to be some kind of vocal resonant sound component. The point is, it just has to be processed through this center. And once these two have had that merge and that process and that completion, then it's done. It's gone. There's no more to say about it. There's no more energy or residue left of it lingering around the body, causing gut problems or shoulder aches or issues, right? Sometimes that's what happens in these situations is there's feelings, there's thoughts, and they never get processed through the manifestation throat chakra center. So they end up cycling around the body and going into the low back and going into the knees and going into the head and going all the different places in the body, the physical body and the energy body. And then that energy is floating around everywhere. But when there is a direct conversation, when there was an intentional, direct way of processing through something, that actually brings completion. It's not verbal vomiting. It's not like you're saying it. It's not gossiping. You're not saying something and saying it to someone else and saying it here and building momentum with it. Not at all. There is processing, which is talking about it, getting it out, saying what needs to be said, coming, whether it's one-sided, which might be it, is maybe a person just has what they need to say, it gets said, and it's done. It might be a discussion where people are sharing back and forth and coming to some kind of clear the air, aha moment, agreement, collaboration, whatnot. Or it could be, like I said, a person writing a song and allowing themselves to sing and express themselves through sound resonance frequencies. And sometimes I will also say that some of us write, right? So we find that we process things out through writing. For those who are writers, I just want to ask you, how many years of journals do you have where you've written the same story over and over again? Yeah, that's a real thing. If you've ever went back and read your past journals at all, or any parts of them, there's moments of wisdom. There's moments where, you know, the story changed just a little bit. However, there probably is also an endless loop of the same story over and over and over, year after year after year after year, to the point where you could look back at some point, open up and say, is there any difference to my life now? Okay, yes, journaling is very helpful and I highly recommend it. However, it isn't the same as this. It is not the same as vocalizing. It is not the same as talking about something with the intention of clearing it. It isn't just flying around with a bunch of words and not knowing what you're saying and not making any connection, going here and going there. Nope, it's very intentional. It's being able to get clear on the thoughts, the feelings, merge them together into a clear message, and to be able to put that out and to communicate it in the way that brings resolution and completion for the highest, most benevolent good for all involved. That is my message. I don't think I could say that again, but I'm gonna leave it right there. Please like and subscribe to my channel, and thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.